Hey everybody, we're back. We're back. It's David from BeckerArt. Hey, this is gonna be fun. I just got from class. I got here, and I think I did a good one today. But I'm gonna change it anyways. So welcome everybody. Welcome for we're gonna learn about doing soft blurred edges. And so if you got my newsletter, it's all about blurred edges tonight and making things look very in a distance and very soft. And tonight's beer is from Quebec. And so it's from Quebec, but it's a Belgian wheat. And so I'm not sure how that works. It's a Belgian, but from Quebec, Canada. And so I already opened it, and so we're going to give it a little pour to cheer you guys on. And oh, it went too fast. Oh, shoot. That's been one of those days. So let me just pour this again. Oh, boy. I should have done it from the side, right? We'll take care of that later. All right. Okay, well, let's see who's all here for now. We got Paula, Pamela, and Barbara. And so I'm sure we'll have more coming. And thanks for guys for always coming back. It's so much fun doing these. And again, you guys are doing amazing. I can't believe what you guys are doing. So really nice stuff. All right, so let's go to first my website to show that anybody who's new here that you go to my website at BeckerArt or davidarbecker.com and look down here, and it always tells you what we're painting. And also, if you want to get my newsletter, go down here and sign up. Sign up right there. Sign up right here just to get my newsletter every Tuesday. And you can always, if you don't want to sign up for a newsletter, but you still want to get the newsletters, right here, if you look, it says right here to get your archive. So every one of them I've ever done, I think there's over 300 of them now, of newsletters. You can get it right here by pressing the archives. All right, and so, oh man, everybody's jumping in all at once. Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. And so then we're gonna go right to the supplies. These are the supplies I'm using. I'm using the Holbein paints, the brushes, my brushes, which you can get on my website. And no masking fluid today, no transfer paper, but we are using Stonehenge Aqua. All right, and so let me see, I have to pour my beer again. I poured it terribly. But let's go to our value study really quick and talk about this painting that we're going to be doing. So this is a not very colorful painting, right? And it's not very colorful at all, but I did that on purpose kind of because I want you to look at pictures and change things. I don't want you to always think that you trace it and copy it completely to a T. And so I like that this is, oh boy, hold on one second. I like that this is blurry all back in here, and it's almost like a mist, a fog through there. I didn't paint this afternoon one like that. I didn't make it like a gray day. I kind of made it a sunny day. And but the idea is that I want to keep all these trees in the background very soft edged. I don't want any hard edges back there. If I do have hard edges, like these little trunks right here, they can be hard edges. I'll put them in after, but they have to be low in value. So the value, if it's hard edge, but the value is close to the background, then it's going to look like it is a soft edge. So that's all great. That's what we're going to try. And also what we're going to do is we are going to make the background, and the foreground. So you can decide everything back here, everything back there is all one value. Doesn't go any darker than a certain point, and then all these trees in the front are darker than that what's behind it. So basically like two layers. Though these trees like this, and maybe this tree right here and this one, they're like in the middle tone. And like I always say, middle tone can go either towards the dark or to the light. So it doesn't matter. You can make those middle tone and make them darker than the background and lighter than the foreground. So it's that simple. Keep it simple like that. Now I did raise up the ground here. When you see my drawing, I raised this up a little bit to about here, and then I put a little path through here, and I'm going to put people in there because I'm kind of doing like a John Pike. John Pike was a painter in the East Coast many years ago, since passed away a long time ago. But his stuff is just amazing, and he always put people in his pictures, just liven them up a little bit. And this wouldn't be fine. If you don't want to put people in there, it's fine. Just make this area then a little bit more important. This tree and maybe some of the foliage in this area, and the path itself can be a little bit more interesting. So don't put it way down here then. Don't put it way down at the bottom. Bring it up a little bit so that the top of this line is a little bit higher. It's like up about here. And actually the proportions, if you're doing a quarter sheet, this is a little bit skinnier than a quarter sheet, and so it gives you room anyways. So let me just show you the tabletop, and I'll show you what I've done. So here's what I did, and if you see, I raised this up a little bit, and see how the background is the background. Nothing in the background is as light as dark as what's in the dark foreground, and the foreground is dark. Now I made everything, it's kind of almost monochromatic if you kind of think about it, because I did a lot of yellow, orange, and browns, and in the foreground I kind of used a little bit of blue, purple, to get that really dark, dark. So that's what you're gonna do. And so I want to change it around. I finally do a good one in the afternoon, and now I want to change it all around. I want to try to make the background, because this one was the warm background and cool foreground. So I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to make the background cool and the foreground warm, just to give you another look at it. Again, the colors on this image above, if you look right here, hold on one second. If you look at this, oh gosh, come on. If you look at this picture, hold on, gotta put this above it. Come on. Okay, I'll put you below it then. There we go. So if we look at this picture here, look at how gray it is. And this is the color image that I got off of Unsplash. And so it's not much color in this image, but we're gonna make our own colors. We're gonna make our own things. And so you can make it whatever you want. So I made it look like it was more sunny here instead of foggy. If you want to make it look like this and foggy, just use grayer colors, and maybe even make it monochromatic where it's just maybe 1 or 2 colors. It's all good, because I'm not here to show you about what colors are you supposed to use. I'm here to show you how to make these soft edges and make things soft edge, and working your wet into wet, soft, blurry edges. So some things are not so identified, so they stand back. That's one thing I was saying in my newsletter, is that there's times when you want to just have things in the background and just out of focus, basically. And this is one of those times. Okay, so let me just read who's all here. And now my beer is already, looks like it's, I put a little bit more. We can taste our and cheer you guys on. All right, let's see what this tastes like. So again, Quebec beer. That's Belgian wheat ale. So I don't know how that works. It's from Canada, but it's supposed to be a Belgian wheat ale. So let's see. That's good. Very good. I'm gonna give that a. Wow, it's got kind of a lemon taste. Wheat ale. Okay, I'm gonna give that about a 9.5. It's not a 10 because wasn't as good as last week. So I made last week's 10. So this is a 9.5. Very good though. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Put that aside here, and let's get going. Like I said, again, I am gonna do the background not in the yellow this time. I'm gonna make it gray or blues. I'm gonna make them cool colors back there. Let's see if we have any questions or anybody who's here. Oh my gosh, a lot of people are here today. Welcome everybody. I'm not gonna go around to everybody's name because it's too long. Okay, let's see here. Wow, you got somebody from the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. Oh, welcome, Claudia. The John Pike palette. Yes, the John Pike palette. And actually, if you want to know what we're doing next week, we decided in class that next week we are copying a John Pike painting. He was one of the most copied painters that I ever copied. I copied a lot of his work through the time, and he taught me so much. And he doesn't do soft edges though. That I was telling my classes that he did not use soft edges to make his distance go back and forth. He used contrast. And that's one thing we can do here. We can use contrast and soft edges, and that will make it even double the whammy. We can make it really go back. So next week, plan on painting a John Pike painting. We're going to just copy one of his paintings and just have fun with that. All right, so let's get started here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the whole surface because I'm working the whole background. The whole background is going to be done except for the tree trunks, which I'm going to keep hard edged but low value, low contrast, like a John Pike would do. He would do that like that. I don't have a John Pike palette, but it's probably one of the better palettes. It's nice and sturdy and nice and thick plastic. All right, so let's wet this surface and get going here. Enough talking. A lot of talking this time. So I'm gonna wet this all up. And you can go right to the people. The people, I put people in. If you want to put one person in, 2 people, 3, 4, a whole group, whatever you want to do. Maybe you don't want to put a person there. Maybe you want to put a deer there. Maybe you want to put a fence right here. Whatever you want to make that a little bit more interesting down the trail. It could be whatever. It could be anything you want it to be. And so, again, I don't always make what the picture is. I always try to use it just as my reference, and I go from that point and try something different. So like I said, I'm going to make the background cool this time. And this one was warm, so I'm not going to go with the warm, I'm going to go with the cool. just to try something different. You saw the warm. You can look at that. That's on the front of this video anyways. And now we're going to do it cool. So I'm going to go in with some lavender, of course. And I can put in, maybe the sun is low. Maybe the sun, I mean, this is an evening shot. And it's overcast. Well, it's starting to, like, maybe a little bit of light coming right through there. Maybe a little bit of orange right by them. Maybe just right there. You know, right there. And the rest can be cool. But that's part of the, almost the part of the foreground. So I can have that really lightly right there. And the reason I can do this is a lot of times when I'm out there and I've done some plein air stuff, you see what it is and you kind of memorize what happens when the sun goes down and the colors. And I also had taken a workshop by Carl Bretsky, who taught me all about the lighting and the color of the lighting in, like, when the sun goes down, and it was very, very informative. So stuff like that, when you're taking classes, and you kind of remember that, and you can just make things up as you go along here, and that are not in the photograph. You know, and then you go to like an orangey color after the yellow, kind of orangey, and right to a lavender. And I'm going to keep it where the sun is kind of right behind them. I know it's kind of always to put the sun right there, but hey, it's whatever, you do whatever you want. And so up here in the sky, I'm just going to put a little bit of lavender up here, just rubbing it into the water, and letting it bleed on its own. It's wet in the wet. And let's see, right here we're going to keep that white right now because I'm going to put the tree in there now. So these trees, and actually up there in the photograph you see this part was lighter. And so see what I already did? I already did that wrong. So maybe if I lighten that up a little bit and bring it down here is a little bit of a tree that is a little bit darker. So the tree color, of course, is not going to be green. You know me, right? It's not going to be green. I can tell you right now it's not going to be green. It's going to be lavender. Yeah, maybe the ones in front, maybe we'll have a little bit of green there, but you know me again. It's like I don't do green. Well, I guess I do green, but not very much. I try not to. And so here now we're making a tree. I'm not going to put the trunks in. Like I said, I'm just going in there and putting the soft edge, blurry edge, and it's all wet in the wet. That's how you do it, and you use enough pigment. If you use enough pigment, and also one thing, you notice that I didn't have line work in there. I didn't pencil that in. Why? Because how could it, I don't know, in a soft edge, you don't want a hard edge line in a soft edge. So I'm going to make up the trees as I go along. And so that, you know, if it's off a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's a tree. Like if it's a portrait, yes, if it's off a little bit, that's going to be a big thing. But this is just a tree. And so I can have it off a little bit. It's not going to matter. It's going to be off a little bit, and that's going to be way okay. And I'm making these grays and lavenders because it's the background, and I want it to be cool. I want it to be cool colors back here. And as you come forward, it's going to be really warm. It'll get really warm up here. And you don't always have to use like a green, even if the tree itself is green, because it all determines what the atmosphere around it color is. Like if this is a gray scene, I don't care if even the green, you have a little bit of green, but it's like soaked up in this fog, and so whatever the fog color is, it's going to be around everything. And so it mutes all the colors and it makes everything. And now I put a warm color in there. What the heck am I doing? Let's get some blue in there. And so I'm going to use, this is peacock blue. Oh, no, this is ultramarine. A little ultramarine blue in this. And now this is really wet. That's way too wet. I already have my pigment on there. I already have my water on there. So I don't want to put more water on my painting. I want to put pigment so that I can stop it on a dime. And it's the amount of pigment that I use that stops it, not anything to do with the water. The water is already on there, and it's going to keep on bleeding unless I use a thick enough pigment that it only goes a so far distance. And you guys have been doing really good with that. I mean, this is what I've been kind of preaching this last 3 or 4 weeks, is to do wet into wet and soft edges and let things be lost. I want things to be not so tight. I want them to be looking like they're out of focus, because these people and these trees in the foreground, those will be the hard edge. And it's so much easier to do it that way than having everything hard edge, and then you have to work with the values and the tints of the value. You know, it's a lot easier if you can get a soft edge, and it'll really help you down the line. If you can do soft edges, it's really learning how to control your edges, control your watercolor. I keep on saying that, but next week we're going to go right to John Pike, and then of course he doesn't have any soft edges, and so I'm going to show you how to then use a value that's just slightly like when we do these trunks out here when it's dry. I'll go back in there and I'll show you how to get the hard edge, but looking like a soft edge, because you do that with low contrast, not too much contrast. Again, all I'm getting right now is all the soft edges in the distance. And I'm not doing the trunks because they will bleed. And I want them to be sharp, you know, looking like the tree that they are. And so over here, I'm going to do the background. I can put a little bit of green in there, a little grayish green, that's fine. You know, back here, because it's still like a bluish green, we can do that. I don't mind that. I'm just not going to do it bright, because people, when they think leaves, they just think bright green. And really, if you go out there, you're rarely bright green, unless in the summer when it's almost yellow. They're almost yellow more than that. So in the sea, it's like more blues, and as it goes down, it gets into that nice warm, like the sun went way down there. And so this is, I'm going to just go in there. Why am I using a small brush? I'm not sure why I use that. Oh, I was using it because I was getting the shape of my trees back here a little bit. But now you notice how it's bleeding out, and I didn't use enough pigment. See that? Use enough pigment. My neighbor has a John Pike, and I was so surprised. Beach with house scene, beautiful. All right, hi David. Looking forward to this info. Hi from hey from New York. You guys got a lot of snow out there in New York. I heard they got a lot of snow out there in Boston and New York, and so here we go. We're gonna go back into this because it's still wet, and so I can still get a little bit of this. As long as my brush is just dry enough and not that much water in there, I can still go in there with it being a little bit not quite as wet as I want it, but I want to get a little bit darker, and it's still wet enough to soften my edges, but I just can't use any. There's no water in my brush. It's basically pigment. My brush is damp, and I just picked up a little bit of the pigment. And over here, and actually I'm going to use my fancy sprayer again, remember, because that keeps it all wet but not soaked. I'll just keep it wet down here in the bottom part. Put that in there real quick. Now let's go put this all in here. And I noticed that, and up here in the picture, see how that one line of the tree, this tree, it runs along the dark on this side is really dark. That's a tangent. That's a tangent right there. So I'm taking the light going over that and have this part right here. Let me just show you with the thing. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So right here, this tree and the background trees are lined up along that edge. So on this side of the tree it's light, on this side it's dark, and that is a tangent that I do not want. So I'm going to take the light and bring it through and bring it to this side. It's stuff like that. I'm probably going to start putting in my newsletter this thing called find the wrong things in the picture. It's going to be shorter than that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put pictures up there, and I want to have 5 things wrong, or if there's 2 things wrong, and I will put in how many things are wrong, and you find them, and then the following week you're going to find out what they are, or maybe at the bottom of the page, something like that. But almost like Where's Waldo? Find Where's Waldo, but you're going to find the mistakes of the composition, and this would be one of them. See how it's on the side? It's tangent. The trees back there are tangent to this tree, and that flattens things. So that I left it right there, it would look like that's a wall. You know, so now it'll look like it's behind this tree. All right, another little tip for you. All right, so I think that's about it for the background wash, and then actually these up here now. So this I'm going to want to have a little bit not so. What do you call it, soft edge. And so if I get a little bit of the pigment coming through where it's a hard edge, it's gonna be fine because it'll look like it's in front of this. So these trees right here have a little bit, I'm gonna be using still the same colors, but I'm gonna bring them up forward a little bit. So I'm gonna gray down this blue with a little bit of orange. And so my background is basically gonna be blues and orange, blues and violets colors, and to tone those down you use its complements. So I use a little bit of, which makes it kind of a lavender here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and kind of make these branches or these leaves a little bit harder edged because it's dry up here by now. And so I'm just going to make those like to come forward a little bit more than these, but then we're going to have the ones in front of those that are going to be really dark, and that will be the foreground. This is still the background. That's still the background, even though it is a hard edge, I'm not making it as dark. And so less contrast keeps it looking like it's in front of the soft edge ones. And there's many different ways of making foliage, and that's like tapping, or you can spatter a little bit like this, and there's the ugly brush and the funny brush, and there's all kinds of brushes that when you tap them down a certain way, they make leaves. Some people like to use a sponge, like a natural sponge, and put their leaves in there. So many ways. It's just unbelievable how many ways there are. You can spatter your toothbrush. You put things on toothbrush, but I'm just going to use this brush right now. And again, this is not my foreground. This is still my background, my lights. I have not gotten to my darks yet. Remember, background light, foreground dark. Even though this is a middle tone, it can go either way. Remember? Either way for the middle tone. Either way. It's a little bit darker. And oh, that's almost a little bit too dark. I will get to that later. That's going to be about that dark later. Not right now. Right now, I just want to get the middle tone. And on this side too, there's some trees back here that kind of just right on top of this. And I'm just going to make those hard edge. That's okay. I'm just going to keep them down in value. They'll still look soft. They'll look softer. They're not going to look as soft as this, but they will look soft because I'm going to keep them low in values. No contrast here. And so I'm just tapping my brush. Tapping, tapping, tapping. Any questions, guys? Have you done any demos on aqua board? No, I haven't. Actually, I have I think, hold on one second. I think this is a aqua board right here. I think this is gesso panel, premium gesso panel. Oh, okay, this is an aqua board. I thought it was an ampersand aqua board, but it's kind of the same thing where it's aqua board. I kind of it's almost like using, well, that's not like using Yupo, which I'm going to be doing a demonstration next week for my club on Yupo, and I'm going to film it, and so you'll be able to see that demonstration next week. But I haven't used I have used a couple of ampersand boards, and it's almost like using hot press. And so I truly enjoy that. That's actually one of my favorite papers to work on is hot press. But I don't teach hot press because it's a little bit harder for students to understand or how to get soft edges like we're just talking about now. You're not going to get these kind of edges. It's harder. And so I do like that. I do love that paper, but I don't teach with that very much. Anyways, okay, so that's my background. My whole background's done now, right? And so now we're going to come to our foreground here. Now this is going to be really dark, but I'm going to get my middle tones from my foreground just so I have something there in place, like the background stuff back here. So I'll start with a little bit of the yellow-orange that I have in the sky right there. I'm going to start there and get that on my path. Go right to the people. Don't think of the people. The people have to be darker. And you can put masking fluid on there and keep them white if you want to make them like rimmed with lighting and stuff. That's fine too. It's fine. No big deal. And so I'm just going to come in here and just start with some of the... I'm going to get... Actually, I know I should do this first with a cool. I forgot. Because if I go with the cool, but then it's next to the sky. Interesting. Because we got to make our foreground warm now. Because I got the cool background. So I want to make the foreground a little bit warmer. But right here, I'm going to keep that a little cooler still. And as I come over, I'm going to get warm, 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 warm. And then this will be the far distant little things that are happening back here. And when this is dry, I'll put my trunks in there of the trees. But not until it's dry, because I want them to be hard edge, but I want them very low in value, like what I almost have there. No more than that. And here I have noticed that I have some gouache on my palette, and that I put down for a gouache demonstration I did. And it still is very, I can pick it up. So a lot of that, like Holbein is really good with their pigment rejuvenating. I think there's something they don't put into it, the oxgall, and so maybe they do that too with their gouache, because the gouache is just perfect. It came back instantly, evenly. And so on this side too. Now I'm going to do the path. I'm going to do the path from a cool. I'm going to do like a cool, like it's reflected cool into a warm. So I started here with a cool, like thing like that. And because the sides of the path will be dark next to the path, but not right now. I'm just doing my middle tones and my lights. Again, I'm just coloring right now, and then I'll put my darks on top of that once it's ready to have that. And then as I come forward, I'm going to get nice and warm. And just take my warm colors and just make some nice warm colors back here. That's like a reddish alizarin with a little burnt sienna type color. They call this one light red, which is more of a terracotta, like an orange. And so put that in there. See how it's warmer now it's here? And this is going to be a lot darker. This is going to be super, super dark. Super, super dark. And so I just put a little bit of these colors on here just so that I have them in there if there's something that you see through later. Because that's going to be dark. Okay, so now I hope this is dry. Yeah, that's dry enough. I'm going to take my small brush and I'm going to try to find this color what I used, and that was like a purple and blue. Remember I used those blue, and then I'm going to put a little bit of this dirty yellow in there to dull it down. And then I'm just going to make it very light and put these trunks in there. And this is more of a tint. This is not much paint. And I don't want to put really a lot of paint because unless I actually have that color, I can keep things light if I just don't put much paint in there. And I'm using the white of the paper to create a light color of that color. That's one way of making a color light, is making a tint of it. And then I can also go in here and just wet some of this and put some leaves in there again. See how light that is? And I'm just going in and making this, and it's going to dry 20% lighter too. So that's just the background, very soft, very light, nothing really hard edged. Well, no, it's hard edged, but it's very light. So it looks soft, right? It looks soft because it's back there. And the values are really, and I shouldn't put let me see, we'll put one trunk right here going through her head. And then just put a little branch going up there and a couple little leaves. And see, this is all hard edged, but because it's so lost in contrast, it's so low in contrast that it looks like it's a soft edge, even though it's a hard edge. And that's what John Pike was a master at. He could make these hard edges look like soft edges just by making sure that they were really low in contrast. You don't need to put a lot of contrast in. It'll look very soft edged. It's going to be hard to choose which painting I want to do because there's so many beautiful paintings that he had done. I have 2 books of his, and I'm going to pick out one, but there's just so many beautiful pictures. And it's okay to copy a photograph or copy a painting of a master, as long as you don't consider it your own. Make it your own. You got to say that this is John Pike's painting. So we're gonna copy a John Pike painting, but we're gonna let people know that it is a John Pike and it's not yours. It's not gonna be your painting. It's a John Pike. So here I'm putting some of the leaves in. They're hard edged, but they're very low in contrast again. Very important. And so if you ever have a painting, this is all about, if you have a painting, you don't know what's in a certain area, just fake it. Just make it blurry. If you don't know what the center of interest is, look it up because that's most important. These people and these trees in this area are the important part. So that's what has to be drawn up, hard edged, and look drawn up well. This back here is just blurry, and it's okay to make things blurry and low key and all that kind of thing. All right, and so that's pretty much my lights. There's a couple tree branch or trunks back here too that are light, and so I'm just going to put them around real quick. They're the far distant background trees, and they can go right in there. Here I'll even put a little bush there. And again, very light, light. And then there's gonna be a lot of darks coming through here now, because this is we didn't do this part yet. Okay, let's go really quickly into that part, and then we'll do our really dark tree branches. We'll be into our dark area. How much time do we have? We'll be right at half-hour time. So that's perfect. So always got to look at the time. Always got to finish it, right? Okay, now we're going to go in here with some warm colors. I haven't even looked up to see if you guys get questions. That's a great idea. Challenging the eye and the brain. Yes, we want to challenge the brain. Have you done any demos? Okay, I read that already. Looking forward to the Yupo. What is the most transparent red that Holbein carries? Oh boy, I'm not sure about that, but I just use Scarlet Lake. I use Scarlet Lake, and it's pretty transparent. Look at that. And it's very vibrant. Boy, you put that with a brilliant orange, you can get some of the brightest reds. And I think it's very transparent. It's not like a cadmium color. It's very transparent, and Scarlet Lake. I use Scarlet Lake. So that's what I use. And this is going to be a lot darker. I just put that there to have some keeping it warm. Keeping it warm, and the background, I'm going to put some of that back here, because this will be the background, and that'll be a little bit lighter. And as it comes forward, it gets warmer and a lot darker. All right, so here we go. Here goes our darks. And so For these trees, I usually use a flat brush because I kind of bump across it, and so it's not a flat line. What is the most transparent? Oh, that's okay. Ask Brian. Ask as many questions as you want. I love questions. I just haven't looked up enough, I guess. But you keep on asking questions. That's no problem whatsoever. Love the questions. All right, so let's establish one of our darkest darks, and that would be this tree right here, right there. That's going to be the darkest dark. So let's establish that right from the get-go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a really dark color. I'll even take black, and I'll put some colors with it, some red, and this is going to be a warm. It's going to be a warm dark, so I'm going to take some black, red, purple, and let's start down here and establish a nice, and it's dry, so I'm establishing a really dark dark, and then I'm going to wet it as I go along. I'm going to wet this tree, and I want it to be a hard edge, and you notice I don't want it to be a flat. I don't just want to run it up. I want it to be kind of, trees are not, they haven't been lathed, and so they're not perfectly straight up, and so I like to bounce the brush a little bit when I'm going down. See, I'm kind of wetting it and brushing it, and I do want it to get thicker as it goes down, but I don't want it to be a straight line. I mean, I got to have a little bit of texture to it, like the bark is, and down here, I'm going to make it really nice and warm. I'm going to take a bright red and float it into this because now it's wet, right? And so on this side, I'm making it a little bit warmer. You can take some of this bright scarlet and just put it right on the one side here, and I'll hold it up a little bit later. Oh, you can probably see how it's nice and bright. See, it's nice bright red there. And so we're going to make that nice red there. Up here, this tree doesn't have any foliage on top. It does have some branches, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to wait for that when I get down to the bottom, or when I get down to the nitty gritty, and I want that to be really dark. Now these next couple trees, and I'm looking around my camera, these two trees are a little bit less, and then this one is pretty dark, I think. Let me hold on, let me see. Let me push this to the side here a little bit, sorry. Okay, that's a darker one. And so we're going to make that one a little bit darker. And so we'll, again, start out with the dark ones, and then I'm wetting it. Going to pick up this color I have here again, and just kind of bring it down. And as you're bringing it down, you're wetting it, right? I mean, I'm going to go down and wet it. And go right into this ground. This ground later on will be all dark. And I'm going to just put some of that in there right now. And these two trees are middle tone, so they can go either way. They can go a little bit of the color from the background and a little bit of color from in the foreground. And so I'm going to start out with a little bit of color from the background first, and then I'm going to add the color from the foreground. See how you always make everything different too. And I noticed that a lot of people started out in class today making all these trees the same and even spaced out perfectly. You can't do that. Every tree has got to be a different tree. It's the best. If you can make each tree look a little bit different, that's the way you want to do it. This one maybe is a little bit thicker on the bottom, but it goes really thin on the top. Maybe there's a branch that sticks out right here. This one here is a little bit lighter, and it's not lined up with that one. You don't want to line things up. Just make things, and if you look at the drawing, there may be even a part of the tree that looks like it's a certain type of tree, looks a certain way. And but when we do the John Pike, he did trees, amazing trees. It's just so wonderful. So that's maybe for next week. Maybe we do something with trees in it again. And so down here, make it like start out dark, and then go to light, and then we can have a bunch of foliage up here. And look at that, I kind of like this red up here. Isn't that kind of fun? So let's bring that down. A little bit of orange in there. And so since I like that, this tree right here should have been a little bit, I'm going to put another one in here because this seems kind of weird, this emptiness right here. Or should I would just put foliage in there later. Okay, let's go over to this side. Let's establish another big branch. And I'm just putting, people ask me, what color I use for that tree? Everything they've been using. You start out, all I do is wet it first with a dark color. And it doesn't matter what color that is because I'm going to go back into it with a lavender, with a dark, or with a light, like a red, with something else. I don't use one thing. And this is going to be a big tree here. You know me, I pick up every color. Once it's wet, you float a bunch of other colors in there. You just don't stick with one color and make the whole thing one color. All this painting comes together as one, and so you got to get those colors in everywhere. And so this is coming down here, and now I'm just gonna make this come down into this area, and then there's like shadow, a little bit of grasses, and I'll just leave that. I'm gonna still do the ground back there, but we'll wait for that. Right now we're just getting trunks, and then we get foliage on top of that. Then we got these. Let's go to all the big ones, the big dark ones. since I already have it in here, I'm going to go with a little bit of blue and alizarin type of color. This is a really dark one. You have to separate the foreground trees from the background trees. And the middle tone ones, they can go either way. But basically these dark ones have to stay in the foreground. And everything in the foreground is going to be really dark. And really dark. I'm talking super, super dark. And these leaves over here are going to be super dark too. And they have to be a change of color too. So I'm making these warm, right? I'm making almost red, some of them. Even though the picture is just very gray. And you can paint it like that. You can paint one color. I don't care. That's be fine. But you have to decide. Then if you're going to do just one color, is that the background has to be light and your foreground will be dark. And so then the colors don't matter as much. Here, if you're going to use two different kind of colors of warm and cool, then definitely separate those two. Definitely separate those two. Here we go. Branches going up. A couple there. And we're going to put some pine trees in there too. And we got to hurry up here, don't we? I'm talking too much here. Let's go. Let's get some warm, nice warm dark alizarin. Let's make this tree come over this way. Let me see in the picture that it kind of comes through. And also break it up between the leaves. You don't have to make, if there's leaves up there that you want to break up, stop it and let the leaves go over like I did here. So that it looks like the branch is stopping or the trunk is stopping and the leaves are in front of it. And so that's one way of doing that. And we're going to just make that a little dark. You notice that's a little dry brush there? It's dry, and so if I just smush my brush over it, it becomes nice and textury. A little branch here, make a little bit more water. Oh, this is a big one now. What did I do? Uh-oh. We're going to put another one right here. But this one's a little bit farther back. It's a little bit lighter. It's not as, see, that's a little bit darker. If you look, the angle, the light was shining on there. And then we got two middle tone ones here, which can go from dark to middle tone. It's this one's right. Let's see, we got one, two. So we got one right here. And once it's wet, remember, once it's wet, put other colors in there. You can put the dark colors, light colors. I'll start out dark down here. Maybe I'll put a little lighter. Maybe I'll just switch to nothing where you don't barely see it. I'm still going to put some of these leaves darker up here. And how do I do leaves? I dab. I just dab. See, like that? You can even make noises. See, like that? Just put those leaves in there. Just dabbing is sometimes a great way of putting leaves in. And these are the ones that are a little bit farther forward now. And if you want them to be soft, you can also spray them with the sprayer. After you put a certain amount on, then you just spray a little bit and it'll just kind of run together a little bit. I gotta put my glasses on so I can read you guys' stuff. What is the most transparent? Okay. Hey Everett, checking in, thanks. Do you have a rule of thumb on deciding how big to make figures in your paintings, animals or people? There's not really a rule of thumb. What it is, you kind of look at the picture and look where the horizon line is. And so wherever the horizon line is, that's where the head is going to be. Because if you're taking the picture, it'll be the same. And I'll explain that someday. Where you take where horizon line, they stay on the horizon line, and then it's the length of them that's determined. So as long as you have the horizon line, which is probably right around there, and so I put the heads right at the horizon line. Especially if the person who's taking the picture is on the same level, it's going to be around that area. And then if it was a little bit bigger, you can make the eggs on here. It'll look okay. It's like if I make the head too high above the horizon line, it was way up here, that would look like he's really tall, and then we're looking from up underneath, up above at him. So I try to keep it so it's like at the horizon line, the head. So just a good rule of thumb to do that. Thanks for the question, Paula. That was a good question. And so we're going to make this a little bit of lines here, a couple of in front of this one. And I know some of these are pine trees, and so they have this little, like, the branches are kind of, but I'm not going to do that until later. I got to wait for that. All right, so there are our trees, our main trees. I think we pretty much got in there now. Make this one a little bit darker at the bottom. And you notice how, again, you notice how I try to keep it nice and different. Each one, a little bit different color. Here I'm putting a little more orange in here, and it's floating in there. And I can also put other colors in there later, but this is the warmth and stuff. And this is still not my darkest dark. This is my darkest dark right there. And so now that's middle tone and to dark. And now comes my super, super darks. This is where I'm going to go in here now and grab all these really dark darks in there. And I'll do this part later. Let's do this part real quick. Let's go in there because I don't have much time to see. 7, 10, we got plenty of time. So let's go in here and start doing a little bit of the grasses and stuff right here along the side of the path. Maybe it's a road, maybe it's a path, whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to put it in there. And again, like you notice in the picture, it's not like this because it's really low. I changed things around. I made it my own. And I put my own colors in. And I want you to learn how to do that. It's so important if you're not going to just copy the photograph. You have to make things up sometimes. And that's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing to make it your own. And here I'm just going to float a little bit of lavender in there. And by teaching you how to do wet into wet, by doing soft edges, that's when you don't know what something is in a photograph, then you just make it up. And you let it bleed so it doesn't look like anything. And that's, you know, out of focus. If you read my newsletter, you saw that one picture I totally made out of focus. I want it out of focus because I don't want to be able to see what it is. And these trees back here, it's good enough. You know they're trees. They don't have to be identified so clearly. And even mine are lighter than they are in the photograph. That's okay. It still works. I'm gonna have the background's lighter and the foreground's darker. And maybe I didn't have as many details back there, but hey, it's all gonna work. All right, now let's do this side. Let's do some orange on here. Wet it as I go along. And then some really dark darks. I'm taking some black, some violet. Take a little bit of dark there, maybe some Prussian blue. But I want to keep it warm. I'm really looking into keeping it warm up here. Even though it's really dark, you can make it a really dark, warm dark. And float some pigment. And I'm going to put a couple of pine trees in here, but that's after I get this big parts done. You can always get the big parts done first before you do this little details. Look at this beautiful orange that's going to be sitting through here. Isn't that great? Oh, I love that orange. Look at that. I'm going to put it right down the side of this building here. Or building, tree. Let's take another shot here. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. A Belgian ale that comes from Quebec, Canada. That's good, but it's only about a 9.5. It's not the greatest. It seems... I've tasted really good Belgian beer, and that's not it. Okay, let's see. It's not bad though. That's a 9.5. It's not bad. All right, so let's go in here and get our darkest darks now. Now we're going to go in and really push the dark, push it down to max. I'm gonna use a little bit of greenish, a little bit of quinacridone gold with a little bit of blue. So that'll give me a really dark green. I use my brush technique where I make pine needles, where I push it halfway down. Like I take and I push the brush. So I'm using the backside of the brush. I don't know if you remember that from a couple other. What I do is I bend the brush. I bend it like this, and I'm bending it so that you see. And look at my shadows in the way. So I gotta figure out this lighting a little bit better one of these days. And so we're gonna just go in here and see how dark that is. And even though it's super, super dark, that doesn't mean you should use other colors too. And I'm bending the brush, and it's hard to do it in the angle you want. I have to use my left hand, which I actually damaged my hand yesterday. I was skiing and I fell, and you can see it's a really, I damaged my hand by a big bruise in my hand. You're not supposed to ski, a skate ski if there's no snow underneath, an inch of snow. It was icy gravel, and I just totally stopped and fell on my wrist and on my knees. So don't ever do that. So here we go. We're going to put a little bit of red in here. And see how dark this is? See how it's coming forward though now? It's going to be really dark and so beautiful. The colors in there. I'm going to do a little brushwork where it looks like, and these are hard edges. I can put a little bit, once it gets wet, you can put a little bit of water on there to let things bleed together. Though John Pike, you'll see next week, he didn't do that. He just kept it all hard edged, and he used the values to make his soft edges look like soft. So we're not doing that. We're actually making soft edges, and we're making hard, dark, super dark. I'm even using black in a couple of these spots. I'm just going to put black in there. keeping it really dark. A couple branches going up in here. Use my rigger brush. Get some of these branches coming through there. You know, some branches sticking out. And here we got branches on this tree that are, you know, dead branches. All these pine trees have dead branches that in time they got broken off on the bottom parts. You know, look at all these ones that have little nice little branches like that. And down here, we're going to take my little rigger brush, get myself a little bit of green, super, super dark green. So I'm going to take Prussian blue, quinacridone gold, and right here, we're going to put this beautiful little pine tree. It's going to kind of fake a pine tree in there a little bit. It's the way you handle your brush. Remember I had the whole thing about handling your brushes and practicing with your brush? Oh, you can't see that, can you? Look at that. There you go. Have to hold it up a little bit. I must have changed my lighting a little bit here. I'm not sure what's going on here. And so we're going to make it a little bit dark, and then we're going to put little things there. Don't forget I can put some nice reds in there, little berries maybe. Here we're going to do a little bit of swirling with this brush to make it look like there's foliage. And then back to the little dry brush. Oh man, with this lighting? It's not right today. That's bugging me here. Let's do this. Let's put the thing underneath there. Put my beer bottle underneath there. That's too angled. Alright, what are you doing here? I'll just have to hold it. Okay. So there we go. Now let's do this side. The same thing on this side. Let me look at it from a distance. There you go. Darks. Now this side I want to do the same thing. I want to do the super, super dark darks. Again, getting them really dark at first. And if you look at the picture, there's a few branches in here that you want to get in. A few leaves and that are nice and dark. Super dark. And you can just flop your brush around. Look at how I'm flopping my brush around. I'm just kind of going at that and just making a mess. But that's okay. And put a little bit of red once it's wet, then you can go in there. And I learned to use enough pigment nowadays. It's still going to float. It's still floating. It's not so thick that it's not floating, but it's thick enough where it's not going to bleed anywhere because I'm doing it into a wet wash afterwards, and it's sticking there because there's a lot of pigment, and that's what I want. I actually want that to happen. It's how you control your pigment. It's how you keep the pigment from running all over the place, is make it thicker. Now, it's not thickness as gouache is. You don't want to make it so thick like it's an oil painting. You want to make it just thick enough that it floats and gives you a soft edge if there's water there. And then look at these little lines for the tree branches. And again, all little broken tree branches on a pine tree. They're always broken. You know, go into the woods and look. You'll see how many things are like broken, the branches and stuff. It's just, you know, look when you're out there. Be an artist and look and take shots of it and look and see what you have and memorize it. That's all about what I was talking about when you're drawing, and you memorize your drawing so that you know what you're drawing without having to even look at it later on. You just memorize things, memorize what's happening in your surroundings. All right, so let's go into this little pine tree. I'm putting little pine trees in here because I did in this one, and it looked really nice. See, I put a couple little pine trees in there. Even though they're not in the photograph, I put them in there because they're easy to do. And there's a bush over on this side in the picture, but I'd rather have it, you know, my own thing. I can do whatever I want. And so I'm going to put little pine trees in here. And it's fun to do those anyways. And usually in the forest, there's always little pine trees, and at least the ones I've gone to. I haven't looked and see what you guys are talking about. Trees become buildings when it was about that. Absolutely, Brenna. Yes, that's the way it goes. That's funny. Ouch. Oh, yeah, my hand. Yeah, that was pretty ouch. Claudia, wish I was in USVI with you. Minus 35 in Duluth. Ooh, it's minus 35 in Duluth. Dramatic darks. Yes, we want dramatic darks. Phil, congratulations on your AWS entry. If you get a chance, look at the AWS. Look at AWS's website, American Watercolor Society. AmericanWatercolorSociety.com, I think it is, and look at some of the paintings that were accepted this year. And one of them will be Phil's. Is little three guys, the same guy with his Green Bay logo on him. So that's Phil's drawing. Beautiful drawing, beautiful watercolor. And one color. Look at, he got in with one color. We're talking about one color. You can do beautiful paintings with one color. And to prove it, Phil here, who just talked about my painting here, friend of mine who lives up near Lac du Flambeau in Minocqua. And so he got an AWS, so congratulations. Now we're going to see if we can get the TWSA. That's next, is TWSA, and then NWS. So enter those shows, they're fun to enter. Alright, so there we have our darks. Now let's go into our people real quickly. And then we're going to do our little fine detail in the street and stuff. But I have to see how far I want to take my people. And so I'm just going to go in there real fast and I'll do the hair right down to the body. The shoulders are usually light. I keep the shoulders light because they're on top. Maybe he has his arm around her. And he's going down here and he's pointing at something. There's something on the path, I think. Uh-oh, something on the path. And you notice how I'm not worrying about the values. I'm not worrying about the value. I'm not worrying about the color. I am worrying about the values. I'm not worrying about the color. The color is just going to be put into my wash. So I just go in there. I can make maybe the pants a little bit different color. Like I dipped into a blue and just going down. And I have it drawn in there. So if you can't fake it, then look for, put into Google, put in couple walking away. Couple walking in a distance. And you'll find something in images. Google Images, and you'll find something that will kind of come close to this angle where they're walking, and then you just draw it up, or you can just fake it like I normally do. I fake it and I just put the legs going down and then maybe one leg back, and this maybe the arm on the side. Maybe she's got a fanny pack on right here. Looks like, I think she's got a fanny pack on there. See, and then she's gonna be walking with should he walk with a stick? Maybe he's got the walking stick this time, because in my painting here, I gave her the walking stick. See, I gave her the walking stick. He was still pointing, but I gave her the walking stick. You decide what you want to put in there. And usually I make the tops different from the pants a little bit so that it shows a little bit of difference. I did a little bit there, but then I can take, now it's wet, now I can float some more color in there. So maybe I'll make this guy, take a little bit of this orange here and just put that on the side there to really, maybe she's a redhead. I make all my redheads. And so we're giving her a redhead. And let's see what else we got here. And so I'll go down this way. Any questions? Let's see. Winters are heavenly here, Brenda. You love it. So I actually, I'm going to be doing a workshop in March in Minnesota, in Winona on the Mississippi River. I forgot what club it's for, but I just signed the thing yesterday. Now we're going to be doing that, and so stuff is going to be coming out. I just signed it this yesterday, so it'll be there shortly. So let me see if any more questions. Because you are using a smaller brush, does this give you more control? Yes. Yes, it does. The smaller the brush, the more control I can have from the drawing it, and the bigger brush, if it's a fine point, I can still do it. But why use a brush that's too big? Use a brush that best fits the purpose. So I'm gonna give her a little stick here, going down. A lot of times I always put a dog there, but I'm not gonna do the dog again because it's starting to get crazy. All my pictures have a couple and a dog. This time it's just a couple, all right. And so then we're gonna go in here and do a little bit of, little things now like grasses and just take and do some dark along the edge of the path. Here we're going to get some, what I'm going to do is I'm taking my rigger brush and I'm doing it sideways, and it gives like a dry brush effect of weeds, so that's what I can do there, just doing like weeds. And one thing I didn't do yet on this painting that I did in the other painting was spatter. And you know how much I love to spatter. I spatter every day. And I spill every day too. Like I spilled on my skis yesterday. So nicely scraped up my knee and my hand. Look at that. Look at that hand. It's nice and blue right there. Lucky I didn't break anything. Alright, so let's see. I think we're gonna go with the flat brush to end this area over here. Make a nice dark in there. And it's not going to wet it first. I'm just going to do a little kind of dry brush, and then wet it as I go in there with a lot of pigment. Nice and dark. I'm creating it dark. I want the foreground to be dark. This is a lot like like John Pike had painted. If you look at John Pike's paintings, he always put people in there, and he always had the really, really dark and light areas. I mean, he just was a master at that. I'm going to put a couple more of these branches in here because it just doesn't seem like, and the woods have a lot of branches, and so I'm just going to put a few more branches in there. At the same time going in here, just getting a lot of little dry brush and a little bit of color, nice thick color inside the wetness. Once I wet it down, and then I can put little grasses by wisping my brush. See, I just flick the brush a little bit, get little grasses here. And here, put a little shadow of them. And it's not like direct sunlight, it's just that sometimes there is light on the path, and here I'm putting scumbling a little bit. Not too dark, I don't want it too dark, I just want a little bit of texture. And now I'm going to take my toothbrush. I've never taken a toothbrush with you guys, right? Let me just get a toothbrush here really quickly and show you the Dale Popovich. He uses a toothbrush a lot, and so I'm going to try to see how Dale does it. Let's see if you can go in here and just take your finger and you go on the side and you just kind of spritz. And you make a little bit of spray, and I can even take light colors, like take a little bit lighter color, a little lavender here, wet it enough, even a little bit of white in that lavender, make it really light. And then put your brush in the water. I'm just going to kind of flick it a little bit, and you get like a nice texture. See how it just kind of gives you a nice texture in there? I mean, there's so much going on in a forest, and there's so many leaves and weeds and bugs and birds, and so get a little bit of everything. I'm also going to spatter, because that's always a good thing. I like spattering. I'm not sure I want that much up there. Definitely want it over here. I like spattering. So we're getting a little bit, because that way it gives you like leaves and such, and it could be like falling leaves too, right? Be anything. All right. And see how the light just kind of shines through there and stuff. And again, let me put this up a little bit, get you a real true. So you see anything? This area seems a little light, so I'm going to put a little bit, take a really light purple, take a little bit of this light purple that's back there, and make it like a distance, something. So I'm just going to put like a little distant hills back there. Alright, so there's a little distant hills. See how it just feels like it's going back now, right? So the background is your light, foreground is your dark, and you got warm foreground, cool background. I think that's it, guys. So there you have it. Mississippi Morning Art Studio is the location for March workshop, April. So thanks, Paula. Paula's actually the one who organized it. So Brenna is helping. I'm helping to organize the Winona event. You can PM me and I can get you the info. Thanks, Brenna. And it should be fun. And we'll do stuff like this. Actually, in live demo or live things, we do stuff like this. Actually, like what we did this afternoon. Let me just pull the tape off, and I think we're done, right? Because it is almost 7:30, and we have to finish that right on time today. Last week we went 4 minutes over, and I don't do that. All right, any more questions? Let me see. Because you're using smaller, congrats, Phil. Hopefully you don't have a snuff box injury in your wrist. Oh, no, I don't. Hopefully not. I actually, I had a doctor look at it. A friend of mine, her dad looked at it, and he was a physician, and he looked at it, and I thought I was in the front because I guess a lot of skiers get it right here because they have you're holding onto the thing and you get it right there. But I landed right on here, landed right there on the front, and just totally bruised the heck out of it. All right, and so come on, tape. All right, so here we have, again, put people in there if you want. You don't have to put people in. I just did that because it makes it more lively, it makes it more, like real, a path. If you don't even want to put the path and you want to do it exactly like the photograph, that's okay too. I really don't mind. It's about the values and keeping the edges soft and making things push back and forward, right? And so this was this afternoon's warm background, cool foreground. Cool foreground, or cool background, warm foreground. All right, and so until next week when we do what was it? What's his name? Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name. A I was gonna say Phil Babb. We'll do a Phil Babb, right? No, we'll do a John Pike. We're gonna do a John Pike painting next week, and we'll see you then, right? Next Thursday. And so here's to the Belgian ale that was made in Quebec, Canada. All right, so until next week, see you guys later. Bye bye. Where's my cursor?